PJ, remember, it's me. It's your brother. And Derek, your husband. And Dylan, that guy who's on our podcast. Come back to us. Remember us.
Hey,
oh, my God.
What are you doing?
He's back.
I was ready to waterboard you.
I was ready to talk about fucking metal. Can we not do a big production out of this right now?
All I need is a plug for this bullet hole, and I'll be fine.
Oh.
He shot me in the thigh,
Yeah,
Derek.
you went off, man.
I'm bleeding real bad.
I don't know how to. Oh my God, you
That's
are.
bad. I need like a tourniquet.
Guys, let's talk about DC Comics' biggest multiversal event to date, Metal.
Final Crisis. Oh.
Yeah,
right.
Dark Knight's metal.
The darkest.
How dark, though?
So, you know how when you hit Vanta Black, it begins to actively absorb light?
Yeah.
This is Vanta Black as fuck!
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're referencing here is of course the just concluded Metal from DC Comics.
Wrapped up in March, yeah.
Thank you, Snyder, for another weird trip down. I feel like I'm on opioids, and I'm not sure if I ever got all the answers to the questions I have. Story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just it. Reading a lot of his work, specifically towards the end of like
New 52 run.
yeah, like the Endgame era, it's all just like, what the fuck is happening?
It's a wild ride.
I mean, and I didn't like avidly follow, but like specifically Batman and Snyder's line, but like I feel like the stuff that I did read with New 52, part of the reason why I felt like I was grasping at straws is just because it was New 52 and very clusterfucky, and I always feel like they've gone into that half-cocked. I think this one is an on purpose kind of a story. Like I think they put a lot of thought into this,
Right.
but it still leaves me feeling the same way of like I feel like I don't know what just happened to me, and I kind of want to take a shower.
Right.
And it didn't answer the questions that you have leaving Endgame.
Right.
Which is what I was hoping for. Well, and that's the first thing that we should talk about with Metal. But before we do, from all of us here at Unmasked on Air, at home and abroad, because we have one listener in Czechoslovakia, Domlam, thank you very much for listening. That's fake. We wanted to let you know that this will
We don't have any listeners at all.
This will be full of spoilers.
Oh, for sure.
This, if you have not read Metal,
Not only for Dark Knight's metal, but a lot of other things.
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
52 storylines from Batman, past crises.
1 through 30. Yeah. It is going to spoiler a lot of stuff for you. If you want to read Metal, we strongly implore you to pause this podcast or video now, go read that, and then come back to us from right at this timestamp, because if you don't, we're going to spoil it for you and you have no one to blame but yourself.
It is all available at www.viewcomic.com. They don't pay us for advertisement, but at this point they should. Viewcomic.com is just a charitable donation-funded website where they are legally allowed to display scanned images of comic books.
With watermarks, because it's donation-based, they technically do it for free.
Correct. So go there, check them out, and it's a really great resource for all nerds.
And Dylan, there was another site that you've been using. What is that called?
Read Comic Online. It's actually one Derek turned me on to.
Is it comic or comics?
Comic.
Read Comic Online.
Viewcomic.com.
And then
Read Comic.
readcomiconline.to.
Oh.
.to, okay.
If you Google Read Comic Online, you'll find it.
Does
pretty
that
easily.
stand for
Yeah, it's the...
Terminator Omnivore?
No.
Yes. That's the 6th Terminator film that's being in production
Omnivore,
right
huh?
now.
He eats a big salad, but then also has some meat in it,
Yeah,
like
there's
chicken.
some chicken.
Side note, Arnold Schwarzenegger just posted on social media today that he survived like a harrowing surgery that he wasn't supposed to have.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Yeah, did you not read that? He had gone in. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. No, I don't think it was Sunday. I think it was either Friday. It was either Friday or Saturday night.
Right.
And he had gone into. I think it was Friday. He'd gone into the hospital for emergency, very, very in-depth heart surgery.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So I'm glad he's okay.
Yeah. Well, the interesting bit is shooting Terminator Omnivore. He's actually shooting, right now.
Well, they're using a young 23-year-old body double, just like they did in that last one.
Right.
So they're just sticking his head on it.
apparently
Great
not.
idea.
Apparently not good. So the first thing we should talk about is the things that lead up the equation of comics that come together to sum up Metal.
True.
Things that it pulls from, things it's based off of, and things that go into this book. Obviously, for starters, because it's a book by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo is an artist, it pulls, like Derek said, like Calvin said, like Dylan said, like I said, it pulls extremely heavy inspiration from New 52's Batman run.
Especially like the first 2 volumes of it that deal with the
Court of Owls.
And then toward the end of that run with Endgame.
Right, with Endgame, with the Dionysium that the Joker falls into, and the Miracle Machine, whatever the fuck it's called.
Let's call it the Miracle Machine.
That he plugs himself into to re-become Batman.
Yes, which that has to do with Final Crisis.
Yeah. Right.
And the return of Bruce Wayne, which is the storyline by Grant Morrison that came after Final Crisis.
Wherein Batman is sent back in time through the Omega Force, and then he threatens to do that again with Baby. Okay, so
Yeah, that was
Batman
weird.
is standing in this cave in metal, and he's got a satchel, and he's like, "Don't make me fucking use this." And you're like, "Oh shit, what kind of weapon is this?" And then he pulls out Baby Darkseid.
like infantile
He's got
destroyer of worlds.
Got these little goggles on.
like little Mad Max goggles. He's like, "I'll fucking use this," and they're like, "No, Bruce."
Well, that's
no.
the best part is watching Superman and Wonder Woman like, you need to. I think she even says like he's a baby, but he's still dangerous.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Have you
it's
guys
like
seen-
Boss Baby, but like destroyer of worlds.
Have you guys seen the movie Zootopia?
Yeah.
So the main character Nick has like a little fennec fox buddy that he rides around with, and the fox pretends to be a baby, and then has this like, "Don't fuck with me" voice. That's what I imagine. It's Baby Darkseid's like, "Give me some milk," and it's like, "Oh fuck."
Have you seen Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist? There is not a reference there. It's just a good movie.
It was underrated.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll have to check that out.
Okay, if you could babyfy one villain purely to carry around in a bag with you, what villain would you babyfy?
Oh shit, Scarecrow.
Really?
I'd babyfy Scarecrow. No crying. He's not afraid. He just sits there and goes, "Arr." And you're like, "Oh, well, I don't want to know what those mumbles are."
Well, he's just rambling about your fears. Derek,
He doesn't coo, he caws.
Oh God. Which is also fucked.
It's like this
Oh my God.
This fucking baby in his Scarecrow mask is going, "Ah! Oh, you run!"
I don't want to like jump. I'm gonna let you guys think about it for a second. How fucked up was it when you finally realized why all the young Robins said crow in metal? They all went crow, 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 and then finally Joker or the Batman who laughs looked over and went bar, and then kept talking, and it was like, oh, what the actual fuck?
I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
That's all they ever say. See, they freaked me out worse than he did almost. Like they were like cannibal eating people. Do you have a villain? Either of you?
Not at the moment. I'm trying to think just what would be
A really cute villain baby?
Well, while you think, we'll go over
How about
more.
Sinestro?
Yeah, there you
He
go.
was going to be my answer because I imagine a head the size of his head on a little dinky body.
like
do you
his
have?
body and his head are the same size.
And oh my god! So he has the mustache also, but
Oh, yeah.
the Sinestro ring is a fucking pacifier.
Yeah.
That's a good. Okay, that's good.
So while we think,
Doomsday is my answer, by the way. I just think little teeny, and instead of being spiky, they'd be like nubs.
Little nubbies.
They wouldn't be like pointy. They'd still be like round.
I hate that
and
word.
Nubbies.
No, I thought you said nubbins.
Nubbins.
No, but I will now.
I hate that fucking word.
Anyway, little baby Doomsday, just like it'd be cool.
So there's also the tuning fork,
That was from Infinite Crisis.
Right.
Which technically is like the skeleton of
Right.
the Anti-Monitor
but then it shows up again
from
later.
Crisis on Infinite Earths
Right.
that then
In
Alexander Luthor and Superman from Earth 2
Right.
are using.
And Superboy Prime, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have like, but then in metal, the Anti-Monitor's astral brain is also
yeah,
there.
it also appears.
Because
yeah.
in New 52, in the Justice League Darkseid War line, Anti-Monitor dies. And the anti-life equation is lost. And so now he's, I guess, a fucking brain.
Which now brings me back to my point. Wonder Woman was less afraid when Hawkgirl had the brain and was going to destroy all life possible with it. she was less scared by that than she was Baby Darkseid. Just gonna point that out there. Baby Darkseid fucked her up.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, he wears goggles. What kind of baby wears goggles?
Baby has a mustache.
I'm trying to think of other lead things that led up to it. Well, and then because they travel multiverse, there's so many like Elseworlds and what, like Gotham by Gaslight is there.
Well, there's a lot of people who like are from the other imprints, so like the Vertigo lines and stuff that we haven't seen for a long time. They finally make a reappearance in this universe,
right?
Which that's like really into spoiler territory. When you get to one of them in particular. I mean, for the first issue of Metal, you have the Sandman.
Right. Which is really funny because what was the first thing the first question I had for PJ when I was reading through this was, who the fuck are the Immortal Men? And I was like, they've already got, and I specifically cited the Spectre, Pandora, and Sandman. And I was like, and people like that who live forever, and like Ra's al Ghul, why don't they use those? And then Ra's was there, and then you find out that the dude they kept talking to was Sandman. And I was like, what the fuck?
And what I love is that Ra's al Ghul even is like, when he references the other Immortal Men, for those of you who haven't read Metal and are a little confused at this point, the Immortal Men are this group of people that, I mean, obviously they are immortal, but they have like this nefarious plot in the background of Metal. Of course, read it for fuller context, but just it's a group of people in the series.
They are getting their own line.
Yeah, Jim Lee's heading it up. That's the Dylan and I were just talking about that before we recorded. We're
super excited about that.
And what I will say about the Immortal Men and Jim Lee and whatnot, there are so many spinoffs, and that's something we'll broach later on. We talked about it last issue about all these different Age of Hero books that are coming out as a result of Metal, so that's definitely something we'll touch later. Trying to think of other like I was saying, these different Elseworlds that get brought up, like Vampire Batman is in it for a bit, and like Red Sun Batman is visible.
I loved when who was it that brought them back? Was it Mr. Terrific?
It was
Cyborg,
it was
I think?
Detective Chimp.
No. Oh, well, right, but he was with like two of the main leaguers.
Right.
I don't remember who had branched off. And they come back and they're like, we'll see you, a bunch of evil Batman, and raise you. And it was
that was
classic Jim Lee Batman was right up front. And then there was, like you said, Red Sun Batman, Vampire Batman, which I'm pretty sure was ripped straight out of that Elseworlds comic.
It was, yeah. And then you have the introduction of the universe, of the 53rd universe.
Right.
Which is apparently just chimp versions of the Justice League, which is pretty great.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because, and that was like a big change because very early on you see, it's in Metal #1, you see the Morrison map of the multiverse.
Right.
Yeah.
And Hot Girl explains there are 52 known universes. There is no more than that. This is the known universe. Except for, she flips the paper over and it's just completely black on the other side. And she says, except for the darkness. Like, there's a dark multiverse that lives back here.
You know what?
Right.
You know what's funny to me? I guess it's just because I work, in an office and I deal with things like toner and paper and whatnot. But when he flipped it around and it was all like a black sheet of paper, I was like, oh, that's just, you wasted so much ink.
Oh, so much.
You useless bag of bones.
I also liked some of the alternate variants of even just the other people. Like when they were going to all of the, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but when you would go into the Dark Knights, the specific like spin-offs, some of their universes people, like the most poignant one to me was Bryce.
The Drowned, yeah.
And how they were all flipped. And so then when she's taking over our Earth, she's like, oh, I get it. Okay. You guys are all gender
The genders
swapped.
are flipped in this universe.
Right. And it was just like...
it's such a cool line. It's so simple,
yeah,
but it shows you her point of view immediately.
Well, it's also such a Batman line, which I realize technically Bryce Wayne's not Batman at this point, but it is such a Batman way of thinking, like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at now.
Right.
They got Batman's character down so well, and that's another thing that helped to birth Metal in a way, is Batman's writing has just been nailed down over so long that leaving from the New 52 and going into Rebirth and then in the Metal, he he's just such a different character from his introduction that this would not have been possible if the events of like Identity Crisis, Final Crisis, Infinite Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Worlds, if all of these things hadn't shaped him, this wouldn't have happened.
For sure. I also liked these are all kind of nightmare scenarios of what would happen if Batman. And there's a moment, I want to say it was in Metal 5, where Batman had been sort of held prisoner for what seemed like 30 years and he'd gotten super old. And there were his versions of Nightmare Supermen.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool because you only saw him for, like, you saw in the background, in one shot, you saw maybe 10. Generally, there were the two on either side of him. And one was Superman wearing the Dark Knight Returns batsuit. Like, it was, whether they want to say it or not, that's what that was. And then the other one, he was wearing Lex's power suit.
And then the one in the back was the Blue Energy Superman when he started to lose his mind.
Right. And it was just so cool that they were, well, it's also, I think my favorite panel in the whole of all of that I read, as far as art and, like, concept-wise, I think my favorite panel was when Barbados says, "It's too late. I'll be calling forth my army." And it opens the idea that this is not 5 evil Batmen. This is an infinite number of nightmare versions of all of the Justice League.
Yeah, and for those listening at home, Barbados is a character introduced in Metal who is like a dark multiversal celestial enemy body that is a giant bat demon who has been planning an evil thing using Bruce Wayne and
For apparently ever.
eons. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that goes back to the Final Crisis.
When he gets sent back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where he actually says it. That the first time he had witnessed him or he had noticed him, Batman is saying this,
Right.
was when he got sent back in time.
It probably didn't help that when he got pushed back to like the Paleolithic era, like when he was a caveman. I don't know if Paleolithic's right. I like comics, not science. Fuck you. But when he shows up on that beach and he looks up and he's like, "Notice me, senpai," and the rumbling and the dark singing and whatnot.
You know what I really like?
That happened, right, Derek?
Calvin.
There was a moment, and I realize this is a really haphazard thought, but like I'm still reeling from this shit. But he said caveman, and it reminded me. So there's the picture where they do kind of a flashback, a recap of Joker, and he's fallen. So he's like naked and standing, and the green one is Dionysium.
Yeah.
And so he's standing in that, and he looks up on the cave painting, and it's not through his eyes, but you're looking at a picture of him, and the cave painting is in the silhouette of very clearly Batman in his mask and a cape.
Yeah.
Then, like 3 or 4 pages later, they show the same cave. He's not there, and it's Carter Hall coming in, and it doesn't look a damn thing like Batman. It's a bat creature, but it's like all hunched over, and like it does. And so I just loved what a nod that Joker always sees this shit as Batman.
Right.
Like he's so nuts. Everything is always fucking Batman.
Right.
And like obviously it's bats. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of the whole point, was the 4 tribes and the 3 tribes, and the 4th was the Bat tribe. But like Joker's, he sees it as literally our Batman because he's nuts. And I just thought it was a nice touch.
Which that scene is taken from one of the things that make up what's called the Road to Metal, which is that one's from the casting. So after you've kind of read all the things that we've listed off so far,
Every crisis ever and all of the New 52 Batman run.
Also the 52 Hawkman stuff. There's
yes, by Jeff Johns.
Death of Hawkman, then there's like Hawkman's Rage or something. I can't remember the name of that one.
It's because it's Jeff Johns' run on Hawkman, I believe during the New 52 era, and then he did a series right at the beginning of Rebirth that was the Death of Hawkman.
Right.
You know what I did like though is that I feel like there are a lot of these like mythical characters and like these like god level characters, right? And a lot of their comics I don't really follow because you kind of only can follow that. Like when in New 52 when they did the Trinity,
Right.
I tried so hard to read the Trinity because it's Pandora, Sandman, and the Spectre. And I was like, this is going to be fucking awesome. And about 12 issues in, man, they just fucking... Because then they all interact with the Justice League and they all kind of guide and shift the way that everything ever happens. And it just became so goddamn complex.
It gets really heady.
And the same thing happens with Dr. Fate a lot, too. So when they used Dr. Fate and like Sandman, for example, I was almost glad, and like Mr. Miracle is another one, I was really almost glad that like it's nice to see a writer who can go, well, everybody knows they can at least do this. So, like, if we keep it to where Dr. Fate opens portals, pulls them into safety, and then leaves them there, you know he can do that.
Right.
And you know that he, like, has a sense of what's going on, but he's not really allowed to interfere. So, with those basic rules, let's include him without you having to read 15 Dr. Fate stories to find out what he's doing here.
That is a wonderful point.
I really liked they kept it very simple. There are tie-ins and shit. Honestly, there's a lot of tie-ins that I didn't read. But as somebody who only read The Dark Knights and then Metal plus the 2 lead-ups.
Forging and Casting. Yeah.
Right, and the epilogue. That's all I read. So for me, it was really great that I was able to read that, and for the most part, didn't really have any questions.
Yeah, no, it does a good job of, like, when people who, through the storylines of those extra, like, outer books, the tie-in stuff, say, like, Hawkman Found.
Right.
That's how you see Carter Hall become a giant demon, basically. But whenever he shows back up in Metal 4 or 5, you don't need to know how he became that. It's just, holy shit, that's Hawkman right now. Okay.
Right.
It does a good job of telling its own story, even though it does have a lot of these ties to other comics and events. You don't need to read them. They add to it. But in order to get the story that Metal is telling, you don't really need to.
Yeah.
It's moments like when a good example of that is when Batman has Mr. Miracle open the door in the Fortress of Solitude, and you see the tuning fork.
Yeah.
And I think he says right there, like, this is the tuning fork. I use it for X reasons, and it is because of Y reasons. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You
And
don't
then
have to know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and he was just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, dudes, and then he never came back.
Yep. Never appears again.
Also, like, Red Tornado is another really good example of what they did,
Yeah.
because they mentioned, well, he's an android. The only thing that I don't think they really explained was, so the pod in the mountain.
Right.
Now, you read the tie-ins or the
Yeah.
other things. Was that, what? Like, who was that? Did they ever go into that?
That belongs to...
They were the challengers, weren't they?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
Challenger
Challenger's
Mountain.
Mountain. Yeah.
So they say, though, that he says there's an android here. Cyborg says that. And it's Red Tornado. Like, that's who it is. But then they go back to the other place, and I guess they brought him with them, I'm assuming, because then he's there in the hidden island where they go to where Carter Hall had been doing his research. But I like that you either know who he is or you don't. Most people know who the fuck he is.
Yeah.
And then he, like, had his moment, and that was kind of it. It's just another great example of somebody with a kind of a convoluted backstory that they were just like, here you go.
Well, and another thing is you see, because that reminded me, another group of characters that we haven't seen in a long time that are like New 52, but then they had a bit of a run, but they've never really had that limelight until New 52, and now we're seeing them again, is the Metal Men.
Yeah,
Like
they
Mercury,
were-
Iron, and all them.
I
Because
love
those
them.
are Tio Maro's creations along with Red Tornado,
Yeah.
and so they're all lined up on these dock bays, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
The
And you
picture,
see him a couple times.
Well, there was the
Yeah.
picture when they're on the island where Carter Hall was. I
Right.
can't remember the name of that island.
Hawk Island. Just
It's
say
Black
it's Hawk
Hawk.
Island.
Okay, sure.
Black
Black
Hawk
Hawk
Island.
Down.
Okay. When they're on that island, in all the framed pictures that were around,
Yeah.
one of them is the Metal Men and Red Tornado with the creator.
Right.
Then at the towards the very end, it's I don't think it was. Yeah, it was in the epilogue where Carter Hall's laying in a hospital bed.
Right,
the Metal Men are standing on the outside of the
Yes.
door, like overseeing
Yes.
his healing process.
And I
which
like
thought
come
was
back.
cool.
The Metal Men were a big part of the New 52 Cyborg run, and I love the Metal Men.
Oh, I
I
thought they
think
were
they're
awesome.
brilliant. Actually, that might be Rebirth. I don't know. It's a part of a Cyborg run that I read that I really enjoyed, and the
I
Metal
think
Men
it
are in
was 52 because I remember reading that while I was trying to catch up. There was a time when I thought there was a time when I thought that I could keep up with the New 52 and read it all. I was mistaken.
Now, that brings an interesting point of let's go round table and think of ways that this is going to change what Rebirth has already started doing.
Ooh.
Okay.
What the?
That was Calvin, by the way.
Oh, right. You have to call my name. I'm raising my hand. You have to.
Okay, Derek.
No, I'm Calvin.
No, my hand is
I'm your
down.
own brother.
Calvin.
Me, Calvin.
You, Derek.
So okay. So here's the thing. Remember how I said like it opened up a whole can of worms that like didn't really answer anything? Okay. So they smash the wall from the darkness past where our universe goes,
Source
and
wall,
they
yeah.
are all lifted into the light momentarily, and then we drift, I'm assuming, back to where we belong. Okay.
Right.
And then Bruce Wayne gathers everybody together, and he's like, hey, let's all party. P.S. Shit's about to get real fucked because things that are out there now can see us and we're not shielded anymore. And then I think it's Barry or Hal, one of the two smart-ass ones, goes, wait, are you saying it's going to get worse? He's like, I don't know. And then they're like, that's the scariest thing I've ever heard. And I'm like, me too, because if Batman doesn't know... So my first
I love
point
it.
is...
Also-
No, I do, but that's my... So when you ask me...
If something is going to get worse after everything we just witnessed
For
in
sure.
Metal,
Oh.
For sure. If
Holy
he's like,
shit.
okay, not even the Batman who laughs. If Barbados, the eternal demon god, isn't the scariest shit ever, and like eternal damnation, right? So yeah, I think that they now have kind of. It's funny because they almost did that thing where they like acknowledge, how are we ever going to top this as writers?
Yep.
So that'll change some stuff, probably.
I think the biggest change that we'll see as a result of Metal moving forward, it's all the influx of characters that have been reintroduced.
Yes.
And I like Plastic Man, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, like because I'm reading the Terrifics, which is great for the record. They're only on number 2, but it's really good. They've introduced a new female character who's like a ghost, like an alien whose abilities are that of like Danny Phantom. Like she can
Okay.
turn intangible and like shoot energy beams, but she's
not a
cool.
Martian Manhunter?
No, I don't.
She's not a
she's
manhunter
from a planet
from Mars?
like Gazorp or something weird. Gazorp, fucking field, bitch. It's very cool. It's something that I'm a big supporter of. Things like the Metal Men being
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
Things like Hawkman is back. All these characters are coming back, and I appreciate the shit out of that.
It was also so cool, though, to see, now that you say it, Martian Manhunter.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
reveal of
Yes.
him was just really great.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
And then shortly after that, we get a reveal of Black Adam showing up
right?
and Lady Blackhawk.
Yeah, which was, I was like, what is this, though? I'm so, wow. Like,
It's all just so like seeing these characters, because Rebirth has been a little slow to the draw to bring a lot of these characters back, a lot of fan favorite characters, which
Right.
is a little
They've been-
disappointing.
But at the same time, I wonder how much of that has gone into a plan of some kind.
Sure.
Because a lot of people have been wanting like Martian Manhunter to come
Right.
back, and then like Scott sets up this whole storyline and tells this whole storyline, and now we've gotten to the point of he's back, and they very much at the end are just like, a new Justice League, a stronger Justice League has to be formed
Right.
with the Martian Manhunter and Hawk Girl and these people.
Right. Well, and then he even drops the blueprints that say Hall of Justice, and
like
it's
that a lot.
P.S. Remember how at the end that dude like walks into the library where Dream
Yes.
keeps track of and was like, "There's a book missing. Dream, are you here? Where is Dream?" Further question: what book was that?
Also, I wonder if this plays into the newly announced Sandman Universe book that's coming out.
That'd be fucking cool.
So
Other characters, like it brings a swath of characters back, but most
And
importantly,
then it creates the new ones.
right. And I think what this is going to do is I think this is going to bring DC back, because DC was at this fucking pre-post whatever crisis bullshit, pre-New 52 post-crisis heyday,
Right.
where they had so many strong characters and so many strong books, and Detective Comics was in the 900s, and everybody had a successful arc happening. And then New 52 happened because they wanted more streamline. They wanted to organize and consolidate. And that kind of worked, kind of didn't. Rebirth did that way more, and they've slowly introduced things to keep more track of it. But, I mean, you're getting the Hall of Justice back. John Stewart is back in the fucking Justice League. John Jones is back. All these people are here. I really feel like this is going to bring us back to, like, Justice League, the animated series days.
Yeah.
sure.
Like that classic, everything bright-colored feel.
I would. My thing, I think, on that is I really wish that it didn't take another crisis to get such amazing writing, though. And my hope is that now that they've established what's going to happen with a strong crisis-style arc, that for the next while, we'll just get some good writing that doesn't require another crisis.
Well, keep in mind, Rebirth ran for, a solid year before Metal started, being
Right,
formed.
but to me, Rebirth as a whole was a crisis level event to start it off, and then it was like really good, and then it just kind of started to peter, and now that boom, and DC kind of
Are you
has
talking
this,
about Batman and Catwoman getting married? That's a crisis.
no.
Just because you're afraid of commitment, Calvin, don't project.
No, what I'm saying is that I think that DC can fall and has fallen into this trap where we wait for the big ones like the Flashpoint Paradox, and it kind of reinvigorates the company and all the lines, and then they sort of dwindle until the next one. And like,
Yeah, I see
that's
that.
cool. And I get that you might want, a really hardcore across the canon sort of boost.
An event.
Right, but I just hope that now that there's all these doors open, we'll get a lot of good comics that can start to spin off from this without getting too complicated and too boring. That would be like my hope for the future of DC.
Yeah. Derek, how do you think this is going to reshape Detective Comics, my dude?
Detective.
Detective Comics or just? Oh, okay. I
Because
got what you
DC,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
thought it was
DC.
Detective Chimp.
Well, what's weird is that DC Comics now stands for Dick Cheney Comics.
Oh,
He bought it.
that's awful.
It's up for sale. And
I
he
thought it was
like,
Don Cheadle Comics.
oh,
That is much better.
Yeah.
Don
That-
Cheadle, as far as I know, has never shot anyone in the face.
It's Dick Clark. It's Dick Clark Comics.
No, I'm excited to see the especially the new Justice League lines.
I
Like,
know.
that's what
Yes,
I'm
I
most
know.
excited for. Especially like with the last couple issues of Metal, like like Metal 5 and Metal 6, you have what is it, Starro?
Yeah.
Comes in and it's just like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, that
Starro's
blew
there.
my mind.
Sinestro's there.
Yep.
Oh God, I mean the list goes on. The Demon Etrigan is there. Lobo is
Yeah.
there. Darkseid is in the Justice League now. Like, oh, I'm excited to.
It's just going to be really interesting to see.
crazy.
And then
I mean, he's a baby though.
No,
no, he's coming back.
He's a baby.
Do you think they're going to explain that, or do you think he's just going to be adult again?
I think they have to. Even if it's just like a
Do
cutaway
ya?
moment. I know they
Because
don't
all
have
of a sudden, Plastic Man was an egg, and there wasn't really an
to.
explanation for that.
Hey, if a man wants to be an egg and he has the ability,
Here's
have
the-
you never had a day where you're like, man, I wish I was a fucking egg today?
Here's my thing: is that we have seen Plastic Man at least like caged and imprisoned before.
Right.
So I assumed when they drew him as an egg that that's just how they were drawing him imprisoned, until they then were like, one day he had a really bad day and just decided, fuck all this noise, I'm gonna be an egg
Hey.
forever.
He has a lot of dark temptations,
Clearly.
so he egged it up. That's what I'm gonna start calling it when I retreat into my own sadness. I'm gonna egg it up. So Dylan, don't egg up right now. And what do you think this is gonna do for this comic book universe?
I mean, not like a whole lot much more than what's already been said. I'm hoping to see, a lot of the older characters show up more. I'm really excited to read Plastic Man and follow him again.
Well, I know that you and I were talking about like a lot of the new superhero lines, like the Immortal Men.
I'm really excited about that
I'm
one.
really fucking excited. There was one that slipped by me that I didn't realize. I looked at that poster of the new heroes, and the Silencer, Sideways, Damage, the Terrifics, like the whole line. The one that I didn't realize is they have a character named Brimstone who's issuing like next week, I think.
It's soon.
Yeah.
But Brimstone is a character that like sold his soul to the devil
Yeah, that's
to protect
awesome.
his town. It's like a Ghost Rider feel, but he looks
When I read it, it sounded kind of like Spawn.
yeah.
Because he, in order to use his powers, he has to be in constant burning pain.
And it
Which
looks
one
just
of them?
so fucking
Which
cool.
one of
Yeah.
them was Spider-Man though? 'Cause-
Sideways.
That's right. Okay.
He's
okay.
not Spider-Man. He's Nightcrawler.
He's Peter Parker.
Spider-Man.
In a Spider-Man-esque suit.
What if his name was fucking Parker Peterson?
It should
Like,
be.
it's an
Is it
original-
not?
It's original property.
Okay, so when I was reading through this, right, there's this part when they finally when they were showing, remember that moment where I was talking about where it was the two Supermen, like Batman's
yeah.
Nightmare Superman. I couldn't figure out what that green suit was, right, until like he had that purple
right,
glowing
right in the middle.
You know where else they showed that they had really good colors was, I don't know why they put it in there, but they had that like weird dance party at the end in the epilogue
Yeah, they
where
were-
he's like,
yeah.
anyway, my kids play guitar now.
Alfred is on drums.
Alfred, yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's like Wonder Woman's like doing a mambo. Anyway, so I was reading that last Thursday, and and I was laying there in the bed on the couch with my doggy, and
Yeah.
I was just petting his head, and I got really hungry, so I made a snack. I made some sandwiches, and then I had licorice for dessert. And dude, that last bit with the man who laughs got me so scared. I just wanted an AK-47.
Agent 46 checking back in.
son of a bitch!
How did you do
You gotta
that?
be kidding! Oh no, PJ, please!
Oh God.
Put the gun down!
Listen closely, podcast listeners. If you want to see men from Unmasked on Air back alive, you will send $40 billion to Russian President Vladimir Putin, who won unopposed.
Or they can just like and subscribe.
That too. Like and subscribe the podcast.